Bene, evviva Anna Bernardini. Anna, vabbè, ormai la conoscete tutti, la passione, la profondità e la dose di giusta follia che caratterizza Anna ne fa una meravigliosa direttrice di Panza.
Grazie Marco. No, io sarò brevissima perché abbiamo fatto un po' tardi diciamo, in tutto è una mostra che è in divenire, quindi abbiamo avuto ovviamente anche delle cose da sistemare, quindi ci scusiamo per avervi fatto aspettare e ancora su questa straordinaria installazione che Bob Wilson ha pensato per questo luogo. Ci sono degli elementi che andranno, no, come sempre nelle mostre diciamo così, da definire, andranno trovate delle definizioni particolari. L'idea, io introduco rapidamente, poi lascio la parola a Wilson perché è qui e quindi credo che sia giusto far parlare lui. Dire soltanto qual è stato diciamo, l'idea, la scelta di dedicare questa mostra ad uno dei più grandi maestri della cultura visuale e performativa contemporanea, e questa volontà trova proprio la ragione nella sottile affinità che lega la poetica di Bob Wilson, che è una poetica visionaria e minimalista insieme, alla visione etica e estetica di Giuseppe Panza di Biumo. E quindi l'idea quando abbiamo invitato Bob, che è venuto a fare questo percorso, ha visto il luogo e ha ascoltato con una concentrazione, un'intensità assoluta questi spazi, ci hanno sottolineato questa necessità davvero di creare un percorso per questo luogo. Ecco. E abbiamo selezionato insieme con Noah questi 34 video portraits, che sono queste meravigliose macchine portatili di video piene di intensità e di riferimenti, e li abbiamo allestiti negli spazi della villa cercando delle connessioni, dei dialoghi con l'architettura, gli arredi, la collezione d'arte contemporanea e lo spirito che ne anima, insomma, la collezione. Con l'idea, io credo che in alcuni casi sorga istintivamente una sorta quasi di sentimento, di emozione contemplativa, in altre istanze, in altri luoghi, la sensazione che si ha guardando queste opere sembra quasi che così accendano degli straordinari corticircuiti. Ecco, poi ognuno di noi avrà il suo approccio in questo senso. E l'altra grande opera che noi siamo felici di poter avere, di poter annoverare tra un'opera nuova nella collezione permanente, è questa House for Giuseppe Panza, che Bob ha pensato dopo aver letto e aver studiato la figura di Giuseppe. Quando lui è venuto a fare questo sopralluogo si è proprio così innamorato, no? Di quello che questa villa rappresenta e anche della figura di Giuseppe Panza stesso. Ha studiato, si è documentato e ha evidentemente ci lascia davvero questo site specific, in fondo questa installazione straordinaria che lui ha creato, ma credo che sia meglio far parlare lui su questo, comunque lavorando su una fotografia di un allestimento che avevamo fatto insieme a Giuseppe Panza nel 2007, una mostra con Joseph Kossut, e questa fotografia che catturava proprio Panza all'interno, seduto nella limonaria della villa, in un atteggiamento, in una dimensione contemplativa, no? Molto anche di studio e di ricerca, molto profondo. Ecco, una delle cose sicuramente che ha ispirato, no, la lettura e l'idea di questa installazione è stata questa foto sul quale poi Bob Wilson si è concentrato, insieme a una serie di riferimenti che lui ha trovato leggendo le conversazioni con Ungara, che descrivono in maniera profonda questo pensiero di Giuseppe Panza, questa avventura filosofica che ha segnato poi la sua esistenza. Basta, io chiudo e lascio la parola a Bob Wilson. Grazie mille.
Buongiorno, good morning. John Cage, the American composer, said, "There's no such thing as silence. Sometimes when we're very quiet, we become more aware of sound than when we make a lot of sound." Martha Graham, the American choreographer, said, "There's no such thing as no movement. There's always movement." And sometimes when we're very still, we become more aware of movement than when we make a lot of movement. Classical architecture is simply buildings and trees. The tree helps you to see the building. The building helps you to see the trees. The avant-garde is rediscovering the classics. Socrates said, "The baby is born knowing everything." It's the uncovering of the knowledge that is the learning process. To me, these are principles in which this great collection here in Villa Panza is founded. I see this room, the chandeliers, the decoration, and I see these paintings. And these paintings help me to see the room. In thinking about placing a permanent sculpture, I thought about this stone stucco villa and American architecture. You know, one of the most important, if not the most important collection of American artists in the last half of the 20th century is right here. Not in my country, but here. Amazing. So, thinking about Giuseppe Panza and the family and what they did in collecting American artists, I wanted to do something as an American here. So I built this small house here. This is typical of 17th century, 18th century, from the early settlers in the United States, who built wooden houses, clapboard houses, with shingled roofs. And they usually painted them gray, with a white trim. And all my work in the theater, since I first started at the end of the 60s until today, I always began a play in silence. Even if I'm directing The Ring of Wagner, or Shakespeare's King Lear, I stage it first silent. And later I add audio. And that's how I made the video portraits. When we're shooting the portraits, whether it's a person or an animal, the room is completely quiet and no one moves. So there's a certain concentration that helps one to reflect interiorly on the movement that is within us and the sound that is within us. You know, a very curious portrait is that Black Panther. It's hard to believe, but this is a true story. This Black Panther was reclining on a table, and we had 45 technicians in the room. This was in Los Angeles. I asked the owner, I said, do you think we could take the chain away from the neck of the panther? Do you think the panther would stay on the table? I said, I think so. I said, what should happen if the panther jumps off the table and rushes towards someone? What should we do? She said, don't move. So with the 45 technicians in the room, I brought everyone together and I said, if we take the chain off the panther's name, Ivory, so if we take the chain off of Ivory's neck, are you willing to stay in the room? And 30 of the 45 people said no. But 15 people remained. And the owner of the panther, she said, I will stand behind the camera because probably he will look at me. And for 23 minutes, no one moved. And we were standing there in silence. And for those 23 minutes, we were all one, like the Black Panther. I've often thought if theater could be like that, where there's one entity in the room, where the musicians are listening, the technicians are listening, the actors are listening, the public, and we have one entity. Kleist, the German author, said a good actor is like a bear. He'll never move first. He'll wait for you to move. Ezra Pound said when he was imprisoned in Pisa, and the fourth dimension is stillness and the power over wild beasts. Another portrait that's especially interesting, and I was telling my assistant this morning, Owen, is the portraits of Lady Gaga. And one portrait, she stood for nearly 11 hours. Now this is a pop artists that we're used to seeing, out there shaking it. Standing still for 11 hours. The power that she had within her. Not outwardly expressing herself, but inwardly feeling it. Look at her eyes. They're deeply rooted here. A tear comes to her eyes and rolls down her cheek. She doesn't move her eyes. There are not many artists that can do something like that. In the portraits of her as John the Baptist, I'll tell you how we made them. First, we showed her the original painting, which is in the collection of the Louvre Museum in Paris, and she studied it, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And then she would say, okay. And then there would be another 10 or 15 minutes where no one talked, no one moved. And she said, okay. And something in those 10 or 15 minutes changed interiorly with her mental place of mind. Go back and look at those portraits. 24 of them. There's not one that's the same. Each one is a different facet of a persona. Not so much an outward change, but an inward feeling, which becomes her outward expression. Elder Dusa was here in Italy. Martha Graham went to see her on stage, and she was reading a letter. And at one point, she dropped the letter. And Martha Graham said she never reacted, but she inwardly felt it. And that was her expression. Martha Graham said from then on, her life was changed. The reason that I work as an artist is to say, what is it? And if we know what it is that we're doing, there's no reason to do it. The reason we work is to say, what is it? And not what something is. It's an honor for me to be here with you, to be in this great center of culture. Have a good day. Yes, we can.
Non credo che sia possibile fare delle domande a Robert Wilson, però Robert, if somebody has some question for you, would you like to answer? Or I think everything you could say for us.
No, it's always good to have a dialogue. So.
Wonderful. Quindi se qualcuno ha qualche domanda da rivolgere a Robert Wilson. It's not so easy. Question to you, you know. How did you sleep this evening?
Oh, I slept very well. 4 glasses of red wine and it was great.
I broke the eyes. Ho rotto gli occhi.
Una curiosità, una battuta. Volevo sapere se l'artista ci aveva fatto. No, ma io ho una voce che si sente. Una curiosità. Volevo chiedere all'artista se ha ritardato mezz'ora per abituarci al concetto di lentezza, per abituarci a vedere le sue opere. Questa è solo una battuta. Poi invece una domanda più interessante è questa. Io che porterò i miei studenti dell'università qui in visita a vedere questa mostra che ritengo unica, vorrei sapere, visto l'intensità delle opere, il numero di opere, quanto tempo prevede lei che dovrei avere a disposizione? Grazie.
Well, thank you for the question, and I apologize for being late. I'm in the middle of final rehearsals in Berlin, so I only arrived yesterday afternoon. And as you know, it's now getting dark quite early. So I had not seen the exhibition in daylight. And so I made some notes yesterday, and I came back this morning to make other notes. And so I hope you will bring your students, and I hope you'll wait a little bit and bring them later, because we're still working on the exhibition and the installation of the house. George Balanchine, the great choreographer of the 20th century, Russian, worked in New York from the early 40s on, the New York City Ballet. To me, it was like a Mozart of the 20th century, one of the greatest artists. In the late 60s, when asked by the New York Times, he said, you know, Mr. Balanchine, your last 3 ballets have not been successful with the public and have not been successful with the critics. What do you have to say about that? He said, give me a little time, and maybe they'll be masterpieces. So give me a little time. I'm still working. Sometimes I go back to see a production of mine that's been in repertory for 10 years, or even longer. And I keep working on it and changing. So with me, a work is never finished. But in this exhibition, I'm still working on it. So bring your students in 6 weeks or so.
Signora in fondo?
Speak English or Italian?
No, può parlare in italiano perché lui la traduzione simultanea.
Prima di tutto grazie, penso di poterla ringraziare come tutti perché per me è stata una grande emozione sentirla. Io ho una vita all'Accademia di Arte e Danza Varese e sono molto curiosa di conoscere la sua idea di arte e danza contemporanea in questo momento, in panorama europeo e non solo, mondiale probabilmente. Le chiedo di darmi un consiglio, le chiedo di darmi il suo punto di vista per poterlo esprimere ai miei allievi, perché per me la danza è un canale espressivo incredibile dove io metto il cuore, dove veicolo emozioni e dove utilizzo molto spesso le pause e i silenzi. Vorrei proprio il suo concetto al riguardo.
As I said, if you're aware of the movement and stillness, when you move outwardly, the line continues. And when you stop walking and the movement outwardly stops, there's still movement. It's one thing, one line. Go to the theater tonight. Go to the Scala. I promise you, you'll see this. You'll see the singer walk over and stop. And then he'll walk again and stop. No. You're walking. And you stop. The line goes on. The reporter asked Albert Einstein once, said, Mr. Einstein, can you repeat what you just said? He said, there's no need for me to repeat what I just said because it's all the same thought. It's one line. Go to the theater tonight. A couple of years ago, I did a master class at Yale University. And I asked the students to speak verse, Shakespeare. And this is how they spoke. How all occasions do inform against me, and spur my dull revenge. Examples gross as earth exhort me, witness this army of such mass and charge, led by a delicate and tender prince, the nephew old Fortinbras, whose divine ambition pop. No. It's one line. How all occasions do inform against me. And examples where it's one line, right? So when you're not speaking, I hear this sound. I hear myself breathing. It's one line. It's one continuous line. So as a dancer of choreography, I think that's very important that movement is always there. As long as you're alive, you're breathing, and you're dancing. In a sense, it's all dance. Even this panther sitting there on a table. Gaga standing there for 11 hours. Is aware.
Puoi immaginare anche come un luogo teatrale e se la Big Surprise primaverile in qualche modo puoi guardare anche il suo teatro.
Lei forse no?
It's quite theatrical to be in this room with these chandeliers, to see portrait of Renee Fleming, the classical opera singer. To see these paintings. To me, that's the essence of theater. We often think that 1 plus 1 equals 2. But if we think about it, 2 is 1. So, I just directed Goethe's Faust. It's very curious. Goethe wrote a play where the first half has a text that's more or less a narrative and tells a story. And the second half is non-narrative. It's this long journey. And it's hard to find a thread or a line through it. But because it's something we freely associate. Suddenly you're in Egypt or you're in ancient Greece and you don't know how you got there. It's like having 2 hands. The left hand and the right hand. It's one body. He has 2 main characters, Mephisto, Faust. But in a sense, for me, they were the same body, the same mind. You have a left side of the brain and a right side, but it's one mind. So in my work, as someone who works in theater, just like the Villa Panza, I work very often in counterpoints. How does one thing help me to hear or see another? My problem is that in most theater, what I see is decoration for what I'm hearing. People go to school and study theater decoration. Burn the schools of theater decoration. We do not need them. Theater should be architectural. The Lord gave us eyes, and He gave us ears. And what we see can be as important as what we hear. And what we see can help us to hear better. So it's a kind of structuring of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. I can say, I want to kill you! Or I can say,
And maybe the smile is more terrifying than this. So it's not arbitrary how we place what we're seeing with what we're hearing, but it's the structure. And that's in architecture, which theater should be architectural. It was in the beginning. And now God knows what it is. But how do I structure what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing? How do we structure a villa and placing artwork? How can this maybe help me see this better? If I had an 18th century clock sitting here, it'd be one thing on an 18th century table. But if I put a computer on that table, I'll probably see the two better than when I've got the Baroque clock sitting on the Baroque table. So it's structure. So he said, classical architecture is buildings and trees. The tree helps you see the building. The building helps you see the tree. Classical ballet. You have a prima ballerina and a corps de ballet. Classical Greek theater. A protagonist, an antagonist, and a chorus. It's classical architecture. Thank you for being here.